Imagine a world without iPhones, no MacBooks, no AirPods, no Apple Watches. Sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you that Apple was once just 90 days away from complete bankruptcy? Yes, the company that dominates the tech industry today was once a total failure. Investors abandoned it, employees quit, and even Apple's own board of directors lost hope. But then something unbelievable happened. A shocking betrayal, a rivalry that turned into an alliance, and a crazy gamble that saved Apple from death. Wait, was it pure genius or just dumb luck? Stick around to the end, because you won't believe how Apple's greatest enemy became its SAVOR. Before we dive in, what's your all-time favorite Apple product? Mac iPod. Carmelo. It all started in 1976, inside a tiny garage in California. Two young rebels, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, had a dream to change the world with personal computers. Did you know Apple started with just one 300?
Comment whoa, if that surprises you!
Their first product, the Apple I, a basic circuit board with no screen. But it was their next product, Apple II, that turned them into millionaires overnight. By 1980, Apple went public, and Steve Jobs became a rock star entrepreneur at just 25 years old. But success came with a price. Jobs' arrogance and explosive temper made him dangerous enemies inside Apple. And just 5 years later, they would come for him. In 1984, Jobs introduced the Macintosh, the first computer with a mouse and graphical interface. It was revolutionary, but also a disaster.
Too expensive, too slow.
No ass. Apple's sales collapsed, and the board of directors blamed Jobs. And then, the ultimate betrayal happened. Apple's CEO, John Sculley, the man Jobs personally hired, turned against him. In a secret meeting, Apple's board voted to kick Steve Jobs out of his own company.
Think about that.
The man who built Apple was now jobless. If you were in Steve Jobs' place, would you have fought back or walked away?
Carmelo.
Jobs left humiliated. Apple had won, or so they thought. Because the worst was yet to come. After Jobs left, Apple collapsed. Launched too many products, confusing customers. Released failures like the Apple Newton, which couldn't even recognize handwriting properly! A Microsoft crushed Apple with Windows, stealing the spotlight. By 1997, Apple was bleeding money, losing over $1 billion per year. Stock prices hit rock bottom. Employees started quitting. Experts predicted Apple would go bankrupt within 90 days. Apple was dying, and nobody could save it. Until something unthinkable happened. Desperate, Apple made a desperate phone call to their biggest rival.
Yes, the same Microsoft that had crushed Apple for years!
In a secret meeting, Steve Jobs convinced Bill Gates to invest $150 million in Apple. When Jobs announced this on stage, Apple fans, you were iOS! People booed, screamed, and even threw things at him! Apple had teaming up with Microsoft. Was Jobs selling out? But this bold move saved Apple and gave Jobs the power to do what he did best in an OAT. With Apple now live, Jobs made 3 risky but genius moves. He cut 70% of Apple's products, focusing only on the best. He launched the iMac, a colorful, stylish computer. He introduced the iPod, a device that put 1,000
songs in your pocket.
The iPod changed music forever. Apple was back in the game, but Jobs wasn't done. He wanted to change the world. Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and said one sentence that changed history. Today, we're introducing 3 revolutionary products, a phone, an iPod, and a portable internet device, and they're all one device. We call it the iPhone. People went crazy. No, but just a touchscreen. A phone, iPod,
an internet device, and what?
Apple stores were did. People camped for days just to get one. The iPhone became the fastest selling phone in history. Do you remember your first iPhone? Which model was it?
Carmelo.
But then disaster struck. Just as Apple reached the top of the world, tragedy hit. In 2011, Steve Jobs passed away. The man who saved Apple was gone. Many feared Apple would collapse without him. But what happened next shocked the world. Under Tim Cook, Apple launched. iPads dominated the tablet industry. Apple Watch became the best-selling smartwatch. AirPods revolutionized wireless audio. And then in 2018, Apple began MacBooks. It became the first company in history to hit a $1 valuation. Today, Apple is worth over $2.5 trillion, the most valuable brand in the world. If you loved this insane Apple story, hit that likey button and subscribe for more incredible brand stories. Comment below which company should we cover next. Turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.
See you in the next one!